Hey guys, Dalton here, and you're watching another episode of DC Collects. Today we're going to be rescaping the PIKE CICHLID tank, 125 gallon, as well as I'm going to share with you guys 5 must-haves that I think everybody should have in their fish room. So let's get right into it, guys. Okay, so we got the 125 drained. We're going to do a rescape, and I hope I can find him. As you can see, the light is not on her very well, but that is actually one of my Xingu 1 PIKE cichlids that is supposed to be on this side of the divider. So I don't know if the male over here was giving her trouble and made her come over to this side, but I already saw the big one, Carnage, aka Carnage, on this side nipping at her tail, and her tail's already has some chunks out of her. So yeah, I want to rescape this tank, give her some more hiding spots. I'm gonna take this large piece of driftwood, which is a super nice piece that I have, and I'm actually gonna try and lay it on its side. It's being propped up by some rocks right now, but to be honest, the female never went under there because I think it's not really that great of a hiding spot. I didn't do that good of a job at getting it low to the ground, so I want to change that up. And I might move some rocks around here, but to be honest, Carnage's side, he likes his side. He's alone because he wants to eat everybody, but yeah, no. So let's get to rescaping this side, guys. Give me a last shot. Give me a second here and I'll rescape it. Okay guys, so just like that, we're filled back up and rescaped. As you can see, I turned the piece of wood on its side, and I'm really liking how this turned out. Put the rocks in there as naturally as I could, and the small Xingu PIKE cichlid already came back over from Carnage's side, so I think I did my job in giving her some better hiding spots. And very soon, guys, I'm just trying to think of when the video is going to come out. Within the next week for sure, I'm going to make a video about taking this divider out, because that small PIKE cichlid seemed to be doing fairly well with Carnage over there. So maybe with this providing a lot more coverage also might help. As I've said in previous videos, the more spots to hide, the less stressed the fish are, because they can actually get away from their prey, essentially. Yeah. So I did that side, move some plants around. Like I said, yeah, I really like how that turned out. Tons of little hiding spots underneath that piece of driftwood, and I put the rocks in there in a way that only the small Xingu could slip through a couple of the cracks, so I think that'll help. And then moving over to Carnage's side, to be honest, I just rearranged his rocks a little bit. He is a pretty picky / sloppy eater, so all the junk that you do see flying around in the tank right now was uncovered in between all of these rocks, because Carnage just lets it go to waste, I guess. I didn't know he was not eating that much of his food, to be honest, so that's a good example of overfeeding. Do not overfeed, because that would have been producing excess ammonia in my tank that I really didn't need. So, something to look out for. That's a good sign that you're overfeeding, is if you're finding pockets of food that are uneaten. So, try and not overfeed your fish. But as I said, guys, we're going to get moving along in the video, and I'm going to go through my top 5, or the 5 must-haves that I think every fish room should have. So here we go. Okay, before we get into this, guys, do me a favor, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. I'm really trying to get to 100 subscribers before the new year. I'd really appreciate all the help I can get. Thanks, guys. But as I mentioned, here are the 5 things that I think every fish room should have. And number 1, we'll start with power. So that might seem obvious, guys, but before you plan your fish room, go around and make sure there's lots of power. So that power bar is hooked up to a plug behind my 125. If we swing around here, my 55-gallon community tank actually has a power cord that comes underneath that rug to the middle of the room here, but there's a plug on that bookshelf wall that it is plugged into. Sneak peek at an advent calendar. So plug there, plug for my 75 behind it. Moving along, I have another plug back there. Another plug again, and another plug for the 120. So easy enough, guys, but make sure you take a look around the room and make sure there's enough power, because there's nothing worse than tripping breakers and having to mess around with electrical because you want to add one more fish tank or something like that. So something to keep in mind. Number 2 on the list, guys, close access to water. And I highly recommend that it is a sink, not like a hose bib or something like that. That's great too. I guess if you could drain all your water outside, but I highly recommend having a sink. As you can see, it's extremely close to all my tanks. I'm super lucky. This room was like made for fish tanks. The reason why it's so critical to have it this close to is because the more work it is to get this out every time, guys, the less likely you are to do the maintenance on your tanks, because not only will it be more time consuming, but it's going to be more of a daunting task. So having the sink really close makes things a lot easier for me and a lot less daunting of a task when I go to do my water changes. Number 3, guys, and we're going to talk about space. Something that some people might say again, duh, space, but before you start planning out your fish room, maybe plan for more fish tanks than you're going to get. There is this disease in the fish hobby called multiple tank syndrome, which you might have noticed I have. But using this as an example, my 125 gallon, this tank was purchased before this tank. So in planning my fish room, I planned to get a 4-foot tank. So what I had done is left exactly 4 feet of room from the end of that 6-foot tank to where my door closes. And you can see I put a little door stopper there so that I never smash my tank, but it's very simple, but I recommend getting out the measuring tape, measuring all your tanks, possibly even laying out maybe some masking tape on the floor just to mark out where the tanks are actually going to go. There's nothing worse than wanting to add another tank later on down the road and find out that you can't because you put one tank 6 inches too far to the left. Be a big bummer. not only that, but these tanks do take up quite a bit of space. That's probably one of the negatives that people who aren't into the hobby would definitely say. Even us that are in the hobby know that it takes up quite a bit of space, but the better you plan it out, the more conservative you can possibly be with your space as well. So, number 4 on the list though, guys, we have weight. So, as you can see, I have 6 tanks. Between those 6 tanks is about 4,000 pounds of water. And your average apartment building upper floors and your average household upper floors are not going to be designed to carry that much extra weight. So you need to do your homework, research, and find out how much weight you can put on your second floor if you plan on putting your fish room on a second floor. My recommendation is going to the basement, as I have done. I am in my basement, and this is the concrete foundation of the house, essentially. So it's a concrete slab. I can pretty much put as much weight down here as I want, but that is a huge factor in where you're going to be wanting to put your fish room, is how much weight can that room hold. Okay guys, now we have number 5 on the list. There you go, number 5. And that's going to be ventilation. So, as you guys can also see, it is quite a big room. Not only that, but there's a hallway, stairs going to my upstairs. Constantly up and down from here. The animals are constantly up and down from here. The air is always moving down here. And not only that, I do have this dehumidifier, which everything so far has been working great. I do have a lot of paper, cardboard down here. I'm constantly keeping an eye on it. Some people might be saying, oh my god, you have all those collectibles over there with the fish room. Haven't had the slightest bit of a moisture issue down here yet. And I believe that's due to good ventilation. If this was just a singular room, you know, as big as the tanks could basically be fit in, and there was doors enclosing it on, there'd be tons of moisture in here. But since it's such a big room, I have the dehumidifier. I usually run the fan over there just on low because it gets things darn dusty and dusty all the time. But yeah, ventilation, guys. That's going to be another key thing. You may even have to install some type of ventilation to maybe even the exterior of your house to get it out of your house, like a fan or something like that. But definitely something you will want to consider when planning your fish room. And thanks everybody for watching this video, and for those of you who stuck around, I have my bonus tip for people planning their fish room, and that is to get a mini fridge. So having a mini fridge in the fish room is awesome, guys, because, well, make sure you get one with a mini freezer as well, but you can keep all your frozen fish food right on hand, so you're not running up and down to the fridge if you put your fish room in the basement. But you can also keep stuff like garlic guard. Garlic guard is for picky eaters. It usually gets the cichlids to go crazy over the food. You just put in the recommended dose into some of their food, let it soak for about 20 minutes and feed them. They usually go crazy for it. And then I also have some
Nourish, which is essentially liquid form of all the vitamins that fish normally don't get when they are kept in these man-made enclosures that we have for them. So just vitamins that they would get in the wild, I should say, that they're not getting in our tanks. So that's my bonus tip, guys, and that's going to do it for today's video. Like I said, thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video.